Good morning, everyone. My name's Nicholas Reid from Reid Corporate, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this investor webinar with Gateway Mining, ASX code GML. Well, Gateway is a name that's well known to many of you. It's a well-regarded explorer that's been around for a number of years. But in the wake of a number of significant developments in the past 6 months, there are a number of compelling reasons to take a fresh look at the company. The recent sale of the gold rights for its Montague East Project to up-and-coming gold producer Brightstar Resources has left the company in an extraordinarily strong position with cash of 5 million, a holding in Brightstar worth 13.5 million, and an EV of, would you believe it, -9 million. All of this with a highly prospective exploration asset, continued exposure to consolidation in the gold space, and a stated intention of finding new growth assets in 2025, plus the leadership of one of the undisputed legends of the industry, Executive Chair Peter Langworthy, who's chuckling. Peter and I have known each other for many years. He's got 34 years of experience, has previously held roles at WMC and Pacman, and he played a huge role in the success story that was Jubilee Mines. He was also founding director of Capricorn and Northern Star. Peter, as Langers as he's known to many of us, great to have you here this morning. Thanks for joining us. And please tell us why Gateway could be set for a very exciting year in 2025.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nicholas. As Nick has said, a few changes happening with Gateway, probably into a period of what we see as a huge opportunity, transformational change. So I'll just run you through the bones of that. So obviously there's an important bit of information and a disclaimer there, which everyone needs to look at their leisure. But just in summary, I guess the past 6 months, as we say there, it's a refreshed platform for growth. We've had the sale of the gold assets to Brightstar Resources, and obviously we saw something in Brightstar that we felt had the capability to really advance the assets. And we saw the ability to get in early there and to be part of that. Strong cash position, currently just around $5 million. That's from the acquisition or the sale of those gold assets. Substantial shareholding in Brightstar, obviously fluctuates, but sitting around the $13 million of stock in what we see as a developing company there. And there was also some deferred milestone payments that I think we'll see come through into the system fairly soon. We maintain a broad, low-risk exposure to consolidation of the Sandstone region. I think most people agree that the Sandstone region has been begging for that to happen. We now have a piece of that without being exposed to any risk associated with that. What this does, it creates expanded optionality as well. Obviously, Brightstar's got increasing operations around Laverton and Menzies, so we get a bit of focus onto that. At the back of all of this, we retain 2 highly prospective exploration projects, which is what I'll largely be running through. And I think a couple of important points is that very low cost base, and also the ability for us to get on the ground there is quite exceptional. There's a few issues across the industry at the moment, and we certainly can get on the ground quite easily. Underpinning all of that is, with the balance sheet that we've got, we'll be pursuing business development opportunities, looking to leverage the strong balance sheet position that we have. Just going through the corporate overview, obviously the ASX ticker is GML, just under 400 million shares on issue, some executive performance rights. Just note the sub-notes there on the cash balance, so sitting around $5 million. And it's popping up and down a bit at the moment, but a shareholding in Brightstar about $13.5 million. So as Nicholas pointed out, minus $9 million EV. So that's something we can work on the first instance. Strong board of directors, Trent Franklin, Peter Lester, and Mark Cossum continues to be involved as a consultant helping us with the BD space. Very supportive major shareholders. Kerry Hamanis, who I have a long-term relationship with, and the top 20 account for nearly 43% of the stock. Diving into the project, the Sandstone region is getting a bit of publicity at the moment. Our projects allow us to maintain a broad, low-risk exposure to the ongoing consolidation of this region. It's probably one of the least developed and still least understood gold areas. We've retained 2 large-scale exploration projects covering just over 900 square kilometres. And obviously, there's very well demonstrated gold and base metal endowment across both those projects. We've broken it up so people sort of a bit clearer as to what project is which. On the western side, we've got the Barrelmaker Gold Project, and that's give or take owned 100% by. We've got a few joint ventures there which we're earning into. And on the Montague Range project on the east, that's the project we sold the gold rights to Brightstar, and we retain all the non-gold mineral rights there. We see that we've got about 80 kilometres of largely untested gold prospective structural corridors. I guess everyone understands that Archean and greenstone belts in Western Australia are very productive geological entities in terms of exploration, not only gold but for other commodities. We also, and I'm speaking of that, we see an opportunity here for copper nickel PGE deposits associated with mafic, ultramafic intrusions. The data that we've got, which underpins everything that we do, high quality. It's been put together over numerous years. I think importantly, the projects have a very low holding cost, so we're not, we can really focus the impact of the exploration activities that we undertake. Not to put too fine a point on it, land access there is best in class. Obviously, we've got all the heritage issues that we have to work through, but there's a few peculiarities in terms of native title through this area that make it relatively straightforward to get on the ground. And there's very favourable logistics, regional towns, Meekatharra, Mount Magnet, nearby, and easy access through bitumised or shire roads through the project. So just focusing in on the Barrelmaker Gold Project, just a couple of images there. We understand the geology quite well. We're tidying up some of the electromagnetic geophysics at the moment. There's a bunch of drilling there previously. Most of it's very shallow. We don't consider that work's been done particularly well, and that's no criticism of past workers. It's always circumstances that are involved in that. And we're just going through where we're doing a final compilation of that and really understanding what those results mean. I guess there's a few standout results that jump out the page. You can read those for yourselves, but with a headline of 22 metres at 2.3, 11 at 4.5, that certainly gives us something to go on with. And I think across such a big project area, I think that about 90% of the drilling is less than about 30 metres deep. So that gives you a bit of an understanding as to why we consider this a fairly significant project. In terms of work programs, as I mentioned, we need to finalise the historical data capture and the compilation, and off the back of that, really get focus into specific targeting. Part of that, the next planned stages of exploration is we'll put a plane up in the air in early 2025 to infill some airborne magnetics in some key areas, because we have been just picking up some extra ground, so we need to tidy that up. We'll be in the field probably mid-January, out checking these targets, and we'll start doing some fairly comprehensive geochemical sampling. And that points to something. A project in an area like this that hasn't had consistent geochemical sampling over it is quite extraordinary. And off the back of that, we'll look to be, I can't say exactly when, but we'll be air core drilling early in 2025. So that's just focusing in a bit there. As you can see, there's some key targets that over the next month or so we'll be working up and getting people to understand exactly what the potential of those targets will be. So moving across to the east, so just to stress, we retain the non-gold rights. Brightstar Resources have the rights to the gold there now. Our key target is mafic, ultramafic associated copper nickel PGE deposits. This is a high value deposit type. Obviously issues with the nickel market at the moment, but I think the consensus would be that this is a style of mineralisation that is very worth continuing to look for. We have absolutely no holding costs or minimum expenditure on these tenements, and we've got two standout targets in this area. The first one we call Apex. It's a very large scale mafic, ultramafic intrusion. I guess we're working out, looking at the mechanisms of the mineralisation there. There's two styles that potentially we're looking at. There's magmatic sulfide emplacement, or potentially there's also structurally remobilised, and that sort of probably brings some copper gold opportunities into the picture there. Significant intersections. There's one in particular, 31 metres at 1.55, including 7 at 5.7. That was drilled by Rio a couple of decades ago. Outside of that, there's a lot of widespread, highly anomalous and intriguing drilling results. We've also undertaken systematic surface geochemistry, done some rock chips, and we are seeing quite considerably elevated PGEs in those rock chips, and really trying to understand exactly what all this means at the moment. So part of that is undertaking with the geochemical studies. This will determine the overall metal fertility of the intrusion. Incorporated into that, there was a big piece of work done on the gold, structural analysis. We're taking that work and overlaying it onto the base metal work, and also obviously including the work out of the geophysical data sets. We've been in the field mapping and doing geochemical sampling, and we should get the results of those reported fairly soon. Just a bit more detail there. You can see the intrusion itself. There's some very high, some focused areas of work. Obviously, once Rio intersected that big intersection, there was a lot of interest in that. But outside of those areas, there's been very little work, and I don't think too that the structural overlay has really had much of a chance to be looked at. So we do like this as a target. It's a big target, and we'll work that up the way it should be worked up. The second project we've got is what we call Flame Tree. We've done a bit of work on this over the last year to 18 months. It's a huge, extensive, anomalous base metal system. We're seeing copper, nickel, PGEs. We're also seeing what could be a VMS or SEDEX association as well in near-surface sediment volcanic rocks. So we're still sort of piecing that together. Some of the key intersections there, and it's quite shallow. 33 metres at 1.35% copper. There's other base metals associated with this as well. 26 at 1.17 and 27 at 1.42. So we've got a bit of work to do to really understand what's going on there. But during the assessment of those intersections, the concept of there was some anomalous nickel copper PGE mineralisation that had been intersected in some shallow historical drilling. You see there the results, and this is associated with the mafic, ultramafic intrusive unit. There's 4 metres at 1%, 4 nickel, and nearly a gram per tonne platinum palladium. So this is an opportunity for us. We'll probably have to go in here and continue to do a bit more drilling. The use of geophysics here is probably a little bit limited due to a lot of black shales in the system, but we certainly see this as an opportunity that we can step our way through and see what the overall prospectivity of this is going to be. I guess every project has to have the big picture arm waving kind of component to it. I guess 2 years ago, GML undertook a two-dimensional seismic survey, and that was largely to try to understand some of the big scale controls on the gold mineralisation across the Montague Dome, and basically came back that there's some big reflective units at depth, and we're probably talking, probably 1,500 metres below surface. We're seeing these as potentially intrusive sills, which again plugs into the mafic, ultramafic sulfide ore body kind of model that we're working with. We're not rushing into this. Obviously, it's deep. We'll convince ourselves in the near surface, and at the right time, either us or someone else will probably have a shot at understanding what these big reflectors might be. Are they intrusions, and are they mineralised? So, and what this does too, it opens up to a 7-kilometre corridor through the project area. You see those sort of things that I've just been waving my arms at, so a better idea as to what we're looking at. This is a large component of the work going forward. We've got a fairly aggressive process going on in terms of business development, looking for new acquisitions. Obviously, an advanced project is first prize for us, prizing these opportunities out. You've got to work pretty hard at it. I guess, if we're looking for things that are either advanced or where we can see unrealised prospectivity. I guess, recent work done with Capricorn Metals and to a degree with Strickland Metals has done exactly that, looked at areas that probably haven't been recognised for what they are, and been able to piece together a few pieces to really understand that there was a greater prospectivity in those areas. In terms of commodity focus, I think it's gold, and gold. Copper is obviously a very attractive commodity to be involved in, and very, very competitive space. Likewise, copper gold. And there's probably, there's limited advanced assets, to be quite honest, in that space, but we'll keep working towards that. And just due to the fact of, there's a bit of expertise in the business in terms of copper, nickel, PGEs, and we do see these as very high value deposit types to be found. I get asked all the time, are you interested in battery metals? The answer is yes. But I think that, it comes down to any opportunity is 100% dependent on the quality of the asset. And I think that also runs with the fact that we'd love to find a fantastic asset in Western Australia. It's where most have worked for a long time. We understand it. There's commentary about how easy or hard it is to work here at the moment, but it still is one of the great mining jurisdictions in the world for us to be working in. Broader focus across Australia, and as I said before, any opportunity will come down to the quality of the asset. And so in saying that, if something comes across our desk and it's offshore, and the opportunity is there, we will have a look at it. So we're not ruling out anything, but I will stress that leveraging our balance sheet with a big focus on an advanced project in gold or copper, and particularly like Western Australia. So just as a bit of guidance on that. So basically, just to summarise, it has been a change for Gateway. I think it's been a great opportunity. It's been a bit of a catalyst in the Sandstone region. I think we'll continue to be rewarded for that by the investment in Brightstar. the strong cash position, we understand how precious that is. Hopefully I've pointed out that those two projects that we've got, we see them as being very highly prospective, but they're certainly not projects we have to run out and splash a lot of cash over. We can make a lot of advances on them by some pretty smart work. I've talked about the shareholding in Brightstar. Very confident in what Brightstar is going to do in terms of the overall strategy, and I think part of that will be seeing these deferred milestone payments come through onto our balance sheet. Maintains the broad low risk exposure to the consolidation of Sandstone, optionality outside of Sandstone into the Laban and Menzies. I really like that, and obviously the BD side of things, business development. I think we're in a position at the moment where there are opportunities out there, and having a strong balance sheet isn't as clear cut for most junior companies. So, I guess the pitch here is that we've got a negative EV of $9 million on any given day. So, an investment risk to me looks it's a fairly straightforward proposition, particularly when we've got that optionality with the exploration that we're working ourselves. So it takes one drill hole to be put in the right place, and you've made the next big discovery. So I'll probably just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Pete. That was a great run through. We'll go to questions now, and just a reminder, everyone who is tuned in, use the Q&A portal on the right-hand side of your screen if you'd like to lower a question. I see there's quite a few there already, but let's get straight into it. Peter, I just wanted to start with a fairly broad one, because you played a key role in the establishment of a couple of great gold companies. And as I recall, you helped hire a chap called Bill Deeman back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I just wanted to ask, given your exposure to Brightstar and what Alex Rivera is doing there, what parallels, I guess, do you see between, say, an early Northern Star and what's happening in that Sandstone district, and what Alex is doing, the way he's going about it? What do you like about it?
I think the thing that has, and I've known Alex for a long time, mainly through his previous life, but Alex has got an energy about him. He's not scared to make a deal. You can see over the last 12 to 18 months, he's moved from one deal to the next very quickly. And I don't think we're seeing that in too many other places. So I guess, and this is the thing, it's not just, we haven't just focused on Brightstar coming in and tidying up Sandstone. We like what's going on in Menzies and Laban as well. And, I guess you keep looking at companies and saying, well, who is going to be the next Northern Star or the next Genesis or, Capricorn? Okay, so there's a track record of being able to do deals. I think critically at the moment too, the ability to get your hands onto capital is critical. And Alex is obviously demonstrating, or Brightstar, I won't say it's just all Alex. Brightstar is showing the ability to fund things the way they need to be funded. So, I think that it's just the ability to move quickly and be very clear in the decision making.
Yeah.
And they've got some good ground. That's the other thing. The project areas they have, I think that the results that they keep putting out is demonstrating that each of those areas is quite a significant gold centre in itself.
Excellent. We'll dive into some online questions. So speaking of capital, there's a piece that's just come out today from BDO in the press that says that exploration companies are struggling to raise money. I think we're seeing evidence of that everywhere. Question is, would Gateway consider farming into projects held by cash poor explorers?
Yeah, I've got no issue with joint ventures. I think that, over the last couple of years, we've seen the style of deal making has changed significantly. I think that, good old joint ventures have sort of fallen off have fallen off a little bit, because I think everyone is looking to recoup the cash they've invested into the project in the first instance and sort of totally de-risk what's going on. So, yeah, the answer is absolutely. I think the ability to, shared risk is something in this business, in this industry, we probably haven't, particularly in the junior sector, we probably haven't done enough. So yeah, if I see a good project, going at the project level is a lot less risk than going into the corporate level. And you can feel your way into a project as well. You have benchmarks, and if you're not hitting the benchmarks on the way in, absolutely. So, yep.
Thanks, Pete. A sort of related BD question here, and I think I know the answer to this, but the question is, would you look at overseas projects? Would you consider Africa, for example?
I think that, well, just for the record, I've worked in Madagascar, which isn't technically Africa, and enjoyed every minute of it. I understand the difficulties in going offshore, but look, it's just the success of companies, particularly in West Africa. I think WAF is, you can't go past, that kind of things. But I guess you kind of look at your expertise as well as to, and the thing I would say too is expertise. You can bring good people in. If you find the right asset anywhere, you can bring the right team into it. So it's not at the top of our list to be driving into say somewhere like Africa. But again, I think that the key point here is if the asset, and I think it was Richard Hyde might have said this from WAF, was that basically and if it's not, I apologise, if the asset is worth it, you'll go and have a look at it anywhere. So, and then work out whether the risk on top of that is acceptable.
Thanks, Pete. We've got a fairly specific question here about your aircore program planned for early 2025. How many meters?
I cannot say. I don't want to look evasive. I don't want to be wishy-washy on this. I guess one of the things that we see through that project is some major structural corridors. Okay, and I think these are the things that we'll go in. We'll do some mapping. This is boring stuff, but it's really the framework for setting things up. That's why we want to get out there early in January, do the geochemistry, and then design the programs off the back of that. So I'll probably come out early next year and probably clarify that a bit more.
We'll get you back on the webinar.
Yeah.
The same investor asked earlier that given the negative 9 million enterprise value, can we expect to see management buying stock on market?
That's a good question. I guess, I look at, my holding in the company, and it's over 5%, it's over 5% of the company with the entities I've got, and I've paid, I've paid for every one of those shares over the years. But it is a good point. There's obviously difficulties with management buying because there's disclosure issues. There's what information you have in but it is a good point, and it's not lost on me.
Yeah. Cool. Next question here is Gateway looking at New South Wales? There's a lot happening over there right now.
There is a lot happening. I'll be very honest. I sat on the board of Silver Mines for a number of years, and it's a very, very difficult jurisdiction. I think, maybe if you're looking west of Cobar, it's not so bad, but it's a very, very difficult jurisdiction to be working in, as is Victoria, to be honest. And I come back to sort of, the same comments I've been making, is if the asset, the opportunity is good enough, if that outranks the issues of land access and because the problem with time, it all comes back to time. Everything can be done, but the time frames are the killers. And as we know, time, it costs a lot of money. So, you look at a lot of people there, it's taken them 3 or 4 times as much time to get on the ground as it would in WA, even though we still complain here that it takes us too long. So it's probably the between New South Wales and Victoria would be the lowest ranked states in Australia that we would look at.
Thanks, Pete. You can't beat a project in WA, can you?
No, exactly.
Has any drilling been undertaken by Sensor on lithium on the project to meet the milestones agreed upon?
We're talking to Sensor at the moment. Well, it's Premier Lithium 1. Okay, I think that they've not really come to us with any compelling targets, and I think we'll be having a discussion in the next little bit as to exactly where that joint venture is going.
Excellent, thanks for that. Another broad question here about the regulatory environment. Is there any hope that the regulatory burden on mining and exploration might reduce in the coming years, or do you see it potentially getting worse, and what are the implications of that?
Okay, there's an emotional response to that, and there's a measured response to that. I think that there's kind of got to be movement on both sides of that. I think that certain balances, the government hasn't really looked after the industry in terms of turned a bit of a blind eye as to some of the issues that we're facing. I don't think that the junior sector has been particularly responsive in terms of the challenges that have been put in front of us. We've been used to certain timeframes and processes to do what we want to do. So, I think that forward planning, those skill sets are probably something that aren't as well developed across the junior sector as they could be. I look at the industry giving itself a few blood noses as well. What happened with Rio at Juukan, that has certainly had massive repercussions throughout the whole industry. And, I'll throw a bit of dirt Rio's way. They have the ability to pay their way through those issues, and their timeframes are certainly don't get as affected as what the juniors do. And the junior sector is now paying big time for that kind of behaviour. I've never tried to be very political in my commentary on the industry, but I think it's a bit of both ways. We've got to get a bit more sophisticated in terms of how we approach these land access issues that are facing us at the moment.
Yeah, interesting issue. Pete, a couple of other questions here. What is the relative weighting you're going to give to gold versus base metal exploration, and how excited are you, given your nickel kind of pedigree, about that magmatic nickel copper opportunity?
Okay, I think the weighting's heavily on the gold. Okay, there's no doubt about that. I think that they're rare beasts, copper, nickel, copper, PGE deposits. Even when you find them, sometimes it can be not that straightforward in terms of how you actually get them out of the ground and find a market for them. Obviously, if you find a Nova, something like that, fantastic. That deposit's still operating in this environment, making money. It's in the lowest quartile, so they're fantastic deposits. The good thing about them is that a good one is big, and you should know fairly early on in the exploration process as to whether you've got something. And I think that I want to be really clear with shareholders in terms of people understanding that process, and if we've got to call it early in terms of what we think is going on there, we will. it's the kind of thing that, you just do some good geophysics, you do some good drill holes, and you've probably either got it or you haven't. Whereas obviously the gold work, it's a bit more forensic when it comes down to it, and there's multiple targets that we can already see on and we just got to work out which are the best ones to get into first.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You're not going to get bogged down on something.
No. I think I kind of joke about this. People who love cricket. There's that old saying about if a captain wins the toss, he thinks about bowling and then he bats. The junior sector is a little bit same. It's like you think about doing something else and then you go and do gold. So it's probably the lowest risk commodity for a junior to be in.
Yeah.
So we know it. The industry knows it. The technology, we know it. You're mining money. It's just cash coming out of the ground when you're mining gold, technically. So it's a very straightforward commodity for the junior sector.
That's a great answer. Thanks for that. Okay, here we go. A couple more. There seem to be some juniors trying to consolidate in the NT right now. Any interest?
Yeah, I don't mind the NT. I go back to my Pacmin days. We had a subsidiary company called Northern Gold. Had the old Cosmo Howley project and a lot of the Burnside projects. So I know that area quite well. It's not easy up there. It's definitely not easy. But yeah, Northern Territory, I understand some of the geology, and I like it as a jurisdiction. So
excellent. Here's a fascinating question. Is there any truth in the rumour that Northern Star, which you helped start, will buy Gateway so they can get access to your skills and experience?
if that's a question for Bill Beeman, I'll come and work for Bill. I think not.
Gee, that's great. And a couple more here. So we're getting into very specific territory on BD here, so I'm not sure how much you can say.
If I can't answer it, I'll just say.
Would Gateway look at Wiluna Mining currently in receivership?
No.
No.
No, that's another big theory of mine. If an operation has sent one company broke, it'll probably send the second company broke. If it's set the second company broke, it'll definitely send the third company broke. So unless there's some massive breakthrough of technology, or whatever, there's obviously huge resources there, but some pretty good people have given that a good shot over the years, and for whatever reason, the metrics just don't come together for it to work.
And also the Rosslyn Hill lead mine, which has an 18-year mine life and 1 billion tonnes, I think it is, of contained lead, both close to your tenements. Are you aware of that one?
No, I'm not. No, I will research that. Thank you. Yep.
All right. Well, look, I think we've had a good coverage of those questions. So maybe we might sort of wrap things up. Pete, but look, thanks very much for coming on. It was great to catch up.
Thanks, Nicholas. Great chance to sort of face to face with the shareholders again. I haven't really had the opportunity since I sort of stepped back into the exec chairman's role. So appreciate the opportunity.
Excellent. And thanks to Pete. Thanks everyone for joining us. Sorry we've got off to a slightly delayed start.
Yeah.
But that was a great chat and a great overview on Gateway, and we'll definitely get Pete back on next year to do these on a regular basis. So we appreciate everyone's attendance this morning, and we also would like to just remind everyone that the recording of this will be published on the company's socials later in the day. And it'll also be up on YouTube for anyone to watch at their convenience. So thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for watching Gateway Mining.